that certain people can't even be around you because your energy is so strong. Vibrate so high that anybody that's wishing to do evil upon you, it shall be revealed. Vibrate so high that any evil entity feels uncomfortable in your presence. Vibrate so high that certain people can't even be around you because your energy is so strong. Vibrate so high that anybody that's wishing to do evil upon you, it shall be revealed. Vibrate so high that any evil entity feels uncomfortable in your presence. Vibrate so high that certain people can't even be around you because your energy is so strong. Vibrate so high that anybody that's wishing to do evil upon you, it shall be revealed. Vibrate so high that any evil entity feels uncomfortable in your presence. Vibrate so high.
Salute everybody. We back at it like a crack at it one more again. I'm bringing you stuff. This is one on a Black History Month. I got my man Jaws in the building. We got some other people that might end up joining. Jaws, salute to you. Welcome back again, my brother. I appreciate you coming up here showing love.
Peace and blessings to the kings and queens of Gods and Nurse podcast of the universe. You already know my brother. I'm here front and center.
Already, man. So a lot of people don't know what I'm about to get into and what I'm about to talk about, but I'm going to talk about somebody a lot of people don't know. This guy called Simeon Toko. So the crazy part about Simeon Toko, do you know a little bit about Simeon, John?
True indeed, yes, sir. Familiar with his history.
You said what now?
I said, yes, I'm very familiar with his history.
Okay, so Simeon Toko, basically, they called him the Black Jesus.
True indeed. Mystery Immortal.
Yeah. And it's amazing to hear some of the stuff that I heard about him. Salute, Big Rez. We'll say KY still doing this shit for sure. Keep up. Thank you. I appreciate that, Rez. Yeah, so we're going to get into what is called Simeon Toko, the real Black Jesus. And the government knew. So what I want to do is I'm going to get into it right now, quick snippet, and we'll go from there.
In the municipality of Bembe, northern Angola. Number 2, from Bembe to Waba Kokonda. All of these deportations took place in a 12-year period. Simeon Toko.
Hold on, my bad. Let's go back. Here we go.
Go. Simeon Toko was born on February 24, 1918, in a northern village in Angola. Not long after Simeon's birth, a missionary at a Baptist missionary society based in Angola had a dream. He dreamed that a great king had been born in the region under his ministry. He decided to go looking for this baby. In 1949, Simeon Toko asked in his public prayer that the Holy Spirit manifest in Africa to put an end to the abuses of the colonial powers. Toko became a dedicated member of the Baptist Church of Antigua. On October 1949, Simeon Toko held up both hands, spread out his fingers, and told the abusive Belgian to count them. He said, "I give 10 years to the Belgian, not one more or less, to leave this country." As for the other mysterious statement made by Simeon Toko, 10 years later in 1960, the Belgians were obliged to leave their rich colony of Congo. This incident was confirmed in Angola in 1994 by Pastor Andelino Kanhandi, who was a cook at the Kakonda agriculture compound where it happened. On January 4th, 1959, witnesses attest that many cherubim and seraphim emerged and held off Belgian colonial army. Citizens of Leopoldville saw an army of about 1,000 angels, non-terrestrials, very muscular bodies, imposing. These human-looking beings, but with supernatural powers, demonstrating an extraordinary force. For example, a witness saw one of them on the road sweeping a 5-ton truck with one hand. Belgian soldiers opened fire on these angels, but to no effect. Colonial army was in a panic and disorder. Angels disappeared as suddenly as had appeared. According to the African natives that day, Simeon Toko had unleashed his army. 4th of January is the day of celebration today in Kinshasa. A year after this extraordinary event, Congo became an independent country, for the Belgians were forced to leave their rich colonies of Congo.
So I'm gonna stop there. What you think about that so far, John? That's wild, ain't it? Said he had angels and stuff. Said saw a guy move a whole 5-ton truck.
This just bears witness to the history that's already been told.
Yep.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad tell of this, these type people, which is us, in 2 books, The Fall of America and Message to the Black Man. But you don't believe it because you don't interact with it or see it in real time, which is how we should treat a lot of things. Don't believe it on face value until we see it. However, there are people amongst us that live closer to their nature than we do. We function with less than 5% of all natural faculties that we possess. Literally. And now this world has dumbed us down even further. So I totally believe in that.
Interesting. Let's keep going. I like that.
Some of these attempts were witnessed by Pastor Kahandi himself. In fact, it was the outcome of one of these murders that made Pastor Kahandi a believer. Simeon Toko was incarcerated and, for the purpose of stemming his popularity and breaking his followers. After being deported and arriving in Angola, never again would Simeon Toko rest. His life would be a string of non-stop attempts to kill him to prevent his mission. Let us follow what he experienced from Leopoldville, where he was unjustly incarcerated, to Angola. While incarcerated in Angola, the Portuguese authorities deported him to the Colonato of Valle do Loje in the municipality of Bembe, northern Angola. Number 2. From Bembe to Waba Kokonda. All of these deportations took place in a 12-year period. Simeon Toko's captivity in these prisons and agricultural compounds lasted from 3 months, as at San da Bandeira, to as long as 5 years, as at Ponta Albina. Thus, when he was sent to slavery in an agricultural field in Kakonda in southern Angola, his head was offered for a price. 2 Portuguese foremen, excited by the reward, decided to take their chance. They put a plan into action to murder Simeon Toko. During a stay in Angola in 1994, we collected the testimony of Pastor Adelino Kanhandi, who was a cook at the Kakonda agriculture compound. He saw what happened. Busy with cooking, he heard a voice calling him, "Kahandi, Kahandi, come here." It was Simeon Toko. Once outside, surprised and curious, Toko told him to stand there and be watchful. Once again, the Son of Man will be tested. Strange words in particular for Kahandi, who was not then a Christian and didn't understand the term of what Simeon Toko wanted of him. Curious, he watched. One of the Portuguese foremen showed up and hailed Simeon Toko. "Hey Simeon, you see that tractor over there? There are weeds clogging the sower. Go clean them out." Submissively, the docile prisoner crawled under the engine to fix it. When he was under the engine, the foreman sitting in the driver's seat started it up, which automatically activated the rotating blades of the seat sower. Simeon Toko's body was instantly severed in several pieces.
So we're going to stop right there so far. So what you think so far, John? This is wild. They knew he had a price on his head already, all his life. I think you muted, John. He might not be around by the computer. So yeah, man, when you sit back and look, this man had a ticket on his head already, which was crazy to me. So we'll get into a little bit watching this. Let's see. Hold on 1 second.
Terrified, Kahandi stood frozen to the spot, watching. The foreman shifted into reverse to back up and check the damage. A second foreman who was in service as a flashed a victory sign indicating that they had succeeded. Then the unbelievable happened. Before Kahandi and the 2 Portuguese accomplices, the body of Simeon Toko recomposed itself. Simeon Toko stood up. Kahandi could not believe his eyes.
That's crazy. So he was put up under one of those chopping blade machine, whatever. When he went under there, he turned it on because he knew about the price he could get on his head. And it dismembered his body. But right in front of them, his body reformed right back together.
The human composition is structured based on frequency. You control the frequency, you control what you see and how you see it. It's called substance. or the material. You control the material, or you control, or you don't control it. When you don't control it, of course, it controls you. And that's why we believe what we see versus controlling what we see. It's a literal science.
Yeah, so people that don't know, the people coming in, this guy right here, Simeon Toko, we'll get a little bit more into him. It's just amazing. Like this guy right here, they called him the Black Jesus. You know what I'm saying? And about how he with Belizean, what was it? Who was it? The Belgians. He ran them off. Him and a fleet of, they said, a fleet of angels. Let's go back.
The Belgians, they were very, very wicked. King Leopold and his clan, generationally, they were the last to give up physical or legal or the conduct of slavery as a business in the 60s.
Here it is right here. Let's look.
On October 1949, Simeon Toko held up both hands, spread out his fingers, and told the abusive Belgian to count them. He said, "I give 10 years to the Belgian, not one more or less, to leave this country." As for the other mysterious statement made by Simeon Toko, 10 years later in 1960, the Belgians were obliged to leave their rich colony of Congo. This incident was confirmed in Angola in 1994 by Pastor Andelino Kanhandi, who was a cook at the Kakonda agriculture compound where it happened. On January 4th, 1959, witnesses attest that many cherubim and seraphim emerged and held off Belgian colonial army.
That's crazy. He summoned angels.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty deep. He told him, you got 10 years. He counted on his family. I'm going to give you 10 years to be here. After 10 years, you got to go.
Amen.
And he summoned.
We don't believe in the true and living because we were taught something else by someone else.
That's a fact.
However, knowledge is stronger than belief. So once you know, then you can enact your belief. So when you tell somebody something,
so you be it. So you think it, so you be it.
Yep. When you tell somebody something and they don't believe it, now something physical has to happen in order for that to come to pass.
That's a fact. That's deep. Let's keep going.
Citizens of Leopoldville saw an army of about 1,000 angels, non-terrestrials, very muscular bodies, imposing. These human-looking beings, but with supernatural powers, demonstrating an extraordinary force. For example, a witness saw one of them on the road sweeping a 5-ton truck with one hand. Belgian soldiers opened fire on these angels, but to no effect. Colonial army was in a panic and disorder. Angels disappeared as suddenly as had appeared. According to the...
You hear what he said? Colonial. Colonial parties were where they were amazed and affected. They ain't know what to do. They said a non-terrestrial, big black angels, very muscular. They came down, even that moving 5-ton trucks. That's nuts. That's crazy. I don't care what nobody says.
African natives that day, Simeon Toko had unleashed his army. 4th of January is the day of celebration today in Kinshasa. A year after this extraordinary event, Congo became an independent country, for the Belgians were forced to leave their rich colonies of Congo. Some of these attempts were witnessed by Pastor Kahandi himself. In fact, it was the outcome of one of these murders that made Pastor Kahandi a believer. Simeon Toko was incarcerated and, for the purpose of stemming his popularity and breaking his followers. After being deported and arriving in Angola, never again would Simeon Toko rest. His life would be a string of non-stop attempts to kill him to prevent his mission. Let us follow what he experienced from Leopoldville, where he was unjustly incarcerated, to Angola. While incarcerated in Angola, the Portuguese authorities deported him to the Colonato of Valle do Loje in the municipality of Bembe, northern Angola. Number 2. From Bembe to Waba Kokonda. All of these deportations took place in a 12-year period. Simeon Toko's captivity.
That's crazy, ain't it, job? Man, that man stay in and out of jail like they try to do Cat Williams and them. That's crazy. For 12 months straight, this man was deported, put in jail, back and forth. His 12 months. That 12 months. That's crazy.
That's the process. Let him finish. We're gonna see how it really worked, because he was a no joke.
This is crazy. Y'all make sure y'all smash that.
In these prisons in agricultural compounds lasted from 3 months, as at San de Bandeira, to as long as 5 years, as at Ponta Albina. Thus, when he was sent to slavery in an agricultural field in Caconda in southern Angola, his head was offered for a price. 2 Portuguese foremen, excited by the reward, decided to take their chance. They put a plan into action to murder Simeon Toko. During a stay in Angola in 1994, we collected the testimony of Pastor Adelino Kanhandi, who was a cook at the Caconda agriculture compound. He saw what happened. Busy with cooking, he heard a voice calling him, "Kahandi, Kahandi, come here." It was Simeon Toko. Once outside, surprised and curious, Toko told him to stand there and be watchful. Once again, the Son of Man will be tested. Strange words in particular for Kahandi, who was not then a Christian and didn't understand the term of what Simeon Toko wanted of him. Curious, he watched. One of the Portuguese foremen showed up and hailed Simeon Toko. "Hey Simeon, you see that tractor over there? There are weeds clogging the sower. Go clean them out." Submissively, the docile prisoner crawled under the engine to fix it. When he was under the engine, the foreman sitting in the driver's seat started it up, which automatically activated the rotating blades of the seat sower. Simeon Toko's body was instantly severed in several pieces. Terrified, Kanhandi stood frozen to the spot, watching. The foreman shifted into reverse to back up and check the damage. A second foreman who was in service as a flashed a victory sign indicating that they had succeeded. Then the unbelievable happened. Before Kanhandi and the 2 Portuguese accomplices, the body of Simeon Toko recomposed itself. Simeon Toko stood up. Kanhandi could not believe his eyes. The Portuguese ran away in terror. From that day on, Kanhandi believed in the Lord, and his entire family converted to the church of Simeon Toko. It was also that day that Simeon Toko made it known who he was behind that smallpox-marred face, purposefully behaving in accord with the following scripture.
That's part 1 of that. So what you think so far, John? John, you there? Yeah, I don't know where John. He'll be back here in a second. But yeah, man, I think that's some real deep stuff. When
I
you
was
sit
muted.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Yeah, what do you? No, I was just saying that's just really amazing. Like you said, once you understand it, and he finally told himself, and he did these remarkable things all throughout, going all over the world. And when we get into part 2 of it, it's even crazier.
Bro.
What ended up happening to him? How like, you know what I'm saying?
I told black people to go see this cinematography,
Cross,
this master.
salute. Much love and respect, John. Much love and
Peace.
respect. I
Peace to the
apologize
God.
for cutting you off.
Now, black man, it's always a blessing for your presence.
Yeah, I know you got to
heard.
Yeah, I know you got to get prepared and everything. You got to,
Yeah, and I was about to jump on, but I was like, man, I had to charge my AirPods up real quick. But I'm tuned in. I'm open air, so I can catch up on the topic.
Yeah.
Sure.
So what we talking about is Simeon Toko. Have you ever heard of Simeon Toko?
No, I never heard of it.
Okay, so they call Simeon Toko the real Black Jesus. When it came to Belgium, and we'll run it back again because I want people to hear this. He went to Belgium, and he told Belgium and them, "You got 10 years on my fingers. You got 10 years. After 10 years, y'all got to leave." And they said he had cherubims, and he had angels that came down. These black angels that came down. I'm gonna play a little bit of it, and then we'll get to part 2 of it. So I want to hear what you got to say, and then John was gonna build.
Okay.
All right. So let's go right here on October 1949.
To leave this country. As for the other mysterious statement made by Simeon Toko, 10 years later in 1960, the Belgians were obliged to leave their rich colony of Congo. This incident was confirmed in Angola in 1994 by Pastor Andelino to count them. He said, "I give 10 years to the Belgian, not one more or less, to leave this country." As for the other mysterious statement made by Simeon Toko, 10 years later in 1960, the Belgians were obliged to leave their rich colony of Congo. This incident was confirmed in Angola in 1994 by Pastor Andelino Kanhandi, who was a cook at the Kakonda agriculture compound where it happened. On January 4th, 1959, witnesses attest that many cherubim and seraphim emerged and held off Belgian colonial army. Citizens of Leopoldville saw an army of about 1,000 angels, non-terrestrials, very muscular bodies, imposing. These human-looking beings, but with supernatural powers, demonstrating an extraordinary force. For example, a witness saw one of them on the road sweeping a 5-ton truck with one hand. Belgian soldiers opened fire on these angels, but to no effect. Colonial army was in a panic and disorder. Angels disappeared as suddenly as had appeared. According to the African natives that day, Simeon Toko had unleashed his army. 4th of January is the day of celebration today in Kinshasa. A year after this extraordinary event, Congo became an independent country, for the Belgians were forced to leave their rich colonies of Congo.
So I'm going to stop right there for you, Hood. So what you think about that so far? That's crazy, ain't it?
It's deep, man. It's deep, and I'm glad that you brought this topic up, because this is definitely a learning piece to myself, and I'm pretty sure. And salute to the chat. I'm pretty sure the others. I never heard of this brother before. You know what I'm saying? It's deep, so I'm just soaking it in right now. That's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, it gets even crazy. Ja was breaking it down real good too on there. So let's keep going. So we'll watch it. Then we're gonna all build.
Some of these attempts were witnessed by Pastor Kahandi himself. In fact, it was the outcome of one of these murders that made Pastor Kahandi a believer. Simeon Toko was incarcerated and, for the purpose of stemming his popularity and breaking his followers. After being deported and arriving in Angola, never again would Simeon Toko rest. His life would be a string of non-stop attempts to kill him to prevent his mission. Let us follow what he experienced from Leopoldville, where he was unjustly incarcerated, to Angola. While incarcerated in Angola, the Portuguese authorities deported him to the Colonato of Valle do Loje in the municipality of Bembe, northern Angola. Number 2. From Bembe to Waba Kokonda. All of these deportations took place in a 12-year period. Simeon Toko's captivity in these prisons and agricultural compounds lasted from 3 months, as at San da Bandeira, to as long as 5 years, as at Ponta Albina. Thus, when he was sent to slavery in an agricultural field in Kakonda in southern Angola, his head was offered for a price. 2 Portuguese foremen, excited by the reward, decided to take their chance. They put a plan into action to murder Simeon Toko. During a stay in Angola in 1994, we collected the testimony of Pastor Adelino Kanhandi, who was a cook at the Kakonda agriculture compound. He saw what happened. Busy with cooking, he heard a voice calling him, "Kahandi, Kahandi, come here." It was Simeon Toko. Once outside, surprised and curious, Toko told him to stand there and be watchful. Once again, the Son of Man will be tested. Strange words in particular for Kahandi, who was not then a Christian and didn't understand the term of what Simeon Toko wanted of him. Curious, he watched. One of the Portuguese foremen showed up and hailed Simeon Toko. "Hey Simeon, you see that tractor over there? There are weeds clogging the sower. Go clean them out." Submissively, the docile prisoner crawled under the engine to fix it. When he was under the engine, the foreman sitting in the driver's seat started it up, which automatically activated the rotating blades of the seat sower. Simeon Toko's body was instantly severed in several pieces. Terrified, Kahandi stood frozen to the spot, watching. The foreman shifted into reverse to back up and check the damage. A second foreman, who was in service that day, flashed a victory sign indicating that they had succeeded. Then the unbelievable happened. Before Kahandi and the 2 Portuguese accomplices, the body of Simeon Toko recomposed itself. Simeon Toko stood up. Kahandi could not believe his eyes. The Portuguese ran away in terror. From that day on, Kahandi believed in the Lord, and his entire family converted to the church of Simeon Toko. It was also that day that Simeon Toko made it known who he was behind that smallpox-marred face, purposefully behaving in accord with the following scripture.
So what do you think about that, Hood? I'm gonna let you speak on that. You never saw this. It's a part 2. The part 2 is
I,
even crazy.
I never saw it, never heard nothing about it, never heard nobody ever talking about that. That's crazy.
Yeah, and they called him the Black Jesus. So I want Ja to elaborate, because Ja was talking about when one understand oneself and mind, body, and spirit.
Okay.
So Ja, if you don't mind breaking that down, like we all possess that in our culture.
Exactly. I was going to go into a point that I was making prior to the Black community with an announcement that I made, which was I'm not sure if y'all seen the movie, The Book of Clarence. In the movie, The Book of Clarence, it showed that different Black people exhibited certain skill sets and powers based upon their own mental aptitude. So psychologically, however they shaped and formed their mindset, it became their physical reality. And one of the brothers in the movie, by the name of Barbarous, he was Mr. Immortal. And Mr. Immortal is also a name that was given to Simon Toko. We have many stories. People call them legends, or some people call them folktale. But folktale is only a story passed on from one generation to the next based upon an incident.
Right.
Now, do we determine the incident being true or not? It's easy to determine the validity of the incident by studying our present or recent history and finding those who have done similar feats.
Right.
Or has professed similar doctrine. And when we speak on the Son of Man, it's very few men that have evaded all assassination. But those were men of what we call true men of God, or the supreme being, not just a God. They was a God amongst us, but they was exercising the power of being one with the supreme being. And that's a whole different level, sometimes beyond human comprehension, especially in this world.
So what you think about that, Hood? It's mind blowing and it's crazy, ain't it?
Man, it's mind blowing, and I gotta appreciate you, Cross, for even bringing this out. You know what I'm saying? Bringing this energy out. Period. It just shows you, how much knowledge that's out there that a lot of us don't know. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And this is the type of stuff where it just goes. It really can go above your head. You got to catch every piece for piece. You know what I'm talking about, and Josh just broke it down. Josh sounding like a scholar over there, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
We
mean the
gonna
way he
give it
broke
to him.
everything down,
Yeah,
definitely. So I'm still trying to get just a question about everything and with
right.
Black Jesus. So how did what I believe they said something like Portuguese or something like that.
Yeah. It was
Yeah,
I'll go back to the beginning. Let me hit that part where they
yeah,
talked about it. That's him right there.
okay.
Story of Simeon Toko.
Simeon Toko was born on February 24, 1918, in a northern village in Angola. Not long after Simeon's birth, a missionary at a Baptist missionary society based in Angola had a dream. He dreamed that a great king had been born in the region under his ministry. He decided to go looking for this baby. In 1949, Simeon Toko asked in his public prayer that the Holy Spirit manifest in Africa to put an end to the abuses of the colonial powers. Toko became a dedicated member of the Baptist Church of Antigua.
So I just want to know more about basically his stance of his position
Yeah.
and what got him for such of a you know a high label. Is there any more information on because like I
Oh
said,
yeah,
this is my first time hearing
we
about it.
gonna
Yeah,
bring
yes,
it.
it's a lot to his history. He actually
Okay.
Yeah.
contested the stance on all three fronts. He contested the religious, spiritual stance. He contested the physical stance, and he manifested something that very few black men in the history of the world has manifested, which is being identified as the Son of Man. So that language alone separates him from many.
And I didn't mean to cut you off, but like when you had first said Black Jesus, you know who popped in my head? The basketball player, I believe. What was his name? Earl Monroe or something like that. Whoever So
Manico.
The GOAT. The GOAT. So it's like, even with that name of giving him that nickname, do you think that trickled from the actual, brother right there that they labeled as Black Jesus?
I would think so, because again, we are that being that they were talking about. It's just, again, once you've been covered up, to me personally, once things have been covered up so much, it takes away. Because think about it, the only way you can keep, if you look at it in the movies, when you had that big, strong, big giant, strong person, how did they hold it down? They would just hold it, it would treat it and say it wasn't nothing, and they would hold it down with chains and keep it held down, because they knew if it ever broke, it would destroy the city. And it's almost like in our culture the same thing. Like, we've been held down thinking other things, and then other people might take it as in, oh, this is just like a farce, but this is coming from scholars who talked about it. See what I'm saying? So I want to get into part 2. Let's play part 2, and I want to hear what y'all think of this, where it get crazy.
Of Bembe, northern Angola. Number 2, from Bembe to Waba Kokonda. All of these deportations took place in a 12-year period. Simeon Toko's captivity in these prisons and agricultural compounds lasted from 3 months, as at San da Bandeira, to as long as 5 years.
So let me explain. So what happened was, once he realized and knew who he was, when they put that price on his head and he came back together, he brought his body back together, they said for that whole year, these are all the places that kept trying to deport him, putting him in prison. All these deportations took place in a 12-year period.
So that explains why this is someone that we don't hear about on a regular, nobody's speaking about, because the only person that one other person I know that was, very powerful and much of a problem was like Dr. Sebi, you know what I'm saying? And look how they did him. So from hearing this, and this happening that the years, we especially when it hit like Black History Month and stuff like that, we love all the ancestors that did it before, but we don't hear about him, and I wonder why. You know what I'm saying? Like, that lets you know that it's a lot to it. It's a lot to it. YouTube might not even like this video right here, man.
I already know. Yeah, I'm always back on. This is what I used to do. Hood, you don't understand. I used to get a lot of calls after this. Yeah, that's why I told you. I stay on some other stuff here. That's what
actually, we don't have to wonder though. Like, we know that the reason that we don't hear about a lot of people or haven't heard of them, if you don't do extensive study, which is really the responsibility of each of us as individuals to do self-study in order to bring a universal understanding to the collective. But we don't study at all. So when we study for ourselves, we find out certain things that have been kept from the masses. And there's many men, they do something that they write you out of history. Like Dr. Sebi, he's going to be written out of history unless we create our own documentation of history. And we've been known for allowing them for the last 586 years to document all the history and believe only their history. So we need to be documenting our own story, but more importantly, we need to be teaching our children the story now while they're babies. That way we don't have to worry about the protection of it, because it will be in us, not in some book.
They can't erase that data unless they erase those that have that knowledge.
How do we create the next one if we don't teach our children that he exists? See, it's all about exposure.
Or even deeper than that, how do we notice the next one? You know what I'm saying? The next one could be walking around.
Well, and that's the thing. Well, that's the thing, Hood. It is. But if you keep something blinded, you'll never know what it is. If I make you can't
You
look
can't
at it,
identify it if you don't know what to look for.
know to look for. You see
It's
what I'm
like who we
saying?
are. We live right now. 85% of Black Americans live in identity crisis. We think we're someone else. We dress like someone else. We make ourselves up like someone else. We desire to be like someone else. We even have the characteristics of others and be treating others like we're someone else. So if you don't know who you are or what it is, you have to be able to know what it is in order to identify what it is, then be able to know how to interact with it once you identify it. Some of us abuse some of the best things that have ever happened to us, but because we couldn't identify what's best for us.
What you said right there was so deep, and especially as far as identifying ourselves, where you can look at it from, back in the day to during slavery, just, the characteristics of the average, Black person, and then, getting out of slavery and dealing with like very high racism and stuff where, Black people, we only knew how to carry ourselves as the white man, you know what I mean? Even when it came to how the mobsters moved to where the OG gangsters did the suits, and then it just got messy. That's why I think, like, when it hit like the baggy jeans era, that was just the younger generations trying to identify with something and didn't know what to identify with. Now look at today, you got people wearing dresses and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So identity crisis is definitely something major.
Yeah, it is. So let's get to the let's listen to this right here. This is a good topic. I'm glad we building on this.
As that
Let's go back. Let me go back to right here.
in the municipality of Bembe, northern Angola. Number 2, from Bembe to Waba Kokonda. All of these deportations took place in a 12-year period. Simeon Toko's captivity in these prisons and agricultural compounds lasted from 3 months, as at San da Bandeira, to as long as 5 years, as at Ponta Albina. Thus, when he was sent to slavery in an agricultural field in Kakonda in southern Angola, his head was offered for a price. 2 Portuguese foremen, excited by the reward, decided to take their chance. They put a plan into action to murder Simeon Toko. During a stay in Angola in 1994, we collected the testimony of Pastor Adelino Kanhandi, who was a cook at the Kakonda agricultural compound. He saw what happened. Busy with cooking, he heard a voice calling him, "Kahandi, Kahandi, come here." It was Simeon Toko. Once outside, surprised and curious, Toko told him to stand there and be watchful. Once again, the Son of Man will be tested. Strange words in particular for Kahandi, who was not then a Christian and didn't understand the term of what Simeon Toko wanted of him. Curious, he watched. One of the Portuguese foremen showed up and hailed Simeon Toko. "Hey Simeon, you see that tractor over there? There are weeds clogging the sower. Go clean them out." Submissively, the docile prisoner crawled under the engine to fix it. When he was under the engine, the foreman sitting in the driver's seat started it up, which automatically activated the rotating blades of the seat sower. Simeon Toko's body was instantly severed in several pieces. Terrified, Kinhandi stood frozen to the spot, watching. The foreman shifted into reverse to back up and check the damage. A second foreman, who was in service as a flashed a victory sign, indicating that they had succeeded. Then the unbelievable happened. Before Kinhandi and the 2 Portuguese accomplices, the body of Simeon Toko recomposed itself. Simeon Toko stood up. Kinhandi could not believe his eyes. The Portuguese ran away in terror. From that day on, Kinhandi believed in the Lord, and his entire family converted to the church of Simeon Toko. It was also that day that Simeon Toko made it known who he was behind that smallpox-marred face, purposefully behaving in accord with the following scripture. Jesus said unto her, "I am the resurrection and the life. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live." In another instance, the plot was to drown him at sea. In the plane with Simeon Toko sat a Catholic priest and members of Salazar's secret police known as PIDE DGS, including the pilot and co-pilot. Their mission was to fly over the Atlantic Ocean, and after about an hour's distance, push Simeon Toko out of the plane into the deep sea. The moment the Pied agents rose to subdue him and carry out their murder, Simeon Toko stood up and ordered the plane to stop. The aircraft stopped in midair. It stood still, not advancing an inch, nor rose or fell backward. The crew was stricken by panic.
Let's stop right there. What y'all think about that right there?
Man. All right, so not only is that, I mean that not only is that shocking, creepy, and everything all in one, but I just gotta say this. When did
Not creepy, incredible.
Incredible, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good word. I like
that. Thank you for correcting the word. I'm just picturing seeing this in person. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But it just now right there. For one, I just gotta say, this right here is one thing that, being black is, we gotta also understand that it's never been a race war. You know what I mean? Of course, we can't erase history with slavery and things of that. You know what I mean? But look at who is presenting this information on this video. That's clearly, a Caucasian person that's even putting this information out, on his platform.
Hey, stop right there. You said it's a Caucasian that's teaching, right?
That's teaching, but speaking upon it.
But he's teaching. Do you know why? Do you know why and who he's teaching?
Caucasians.
The next generation of suppressors of the next rise of the next Black Jesus.
Damn.
See? So that's why we must study. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, study the white man because he is successful and gives no excuses for his failures.
Damn.
See? So we should study him as we are and make sure we adopt some of those principles so that we can make no excuses for our failures and produce many. Because Jesus of the Bible, he didn't want just himself. He wanted to make us disciples or followers or soldiers of his own liking. You feel me? So when we have the same mind of Jesus and we begin being like Jesus, we become Jesus's too. We just got our own name, but we got the power of such, which is his power is backed by the Most High, which is something we've been disconnected from for 486 years. So we got to believe first, and then we got to achieve by teaching our children who would only have a fair chance at becoming any of this. Because Usain Bolt at one time thought 9.87 seconds was the fastest of a 100-yard dash until he foreseen himself doing a 9.5, which is equivalent to a horse.
Yeah.
So
what is it to believe it?
That's deep, and it's a few things I wanted to speak upon on that. If I'm not mistaken, I believe they said he was born in 1918.
Yeah, 19.
True.
Yeah, 1918.
True.
I heard them say something about 95. So does this mean that he made it to like the 90s, or maybe when was his time of? I can't even say pass. Yes, I don't even want to say passing because obviously.
Yeah, because he's not. Yeah. So let's keep going. They're about to break it down. Let's break it down. About to break it.
Priest could hardly breathe, and hoarsely huffed out desperate prayers. Simeon lifted his eyes and hands toward the heaven, and after a short prayer, he ordered the plane to move again. At once, the plane started moving. Another story refers to a most remarkable attempt by some astonishingly misguided men to kill Simeon. Tools under dictator Antonio Salazar's orders, some doctors found themselves reading the reports of his purported invincibility. They thought they might pass the time by drilling for the secret, which seemed to protect the mysterious African man. They meant to perform an autopsy on a living human being. Under the pretext of removing a tumor in his chest, the doctors had Simeon Toko taken to a hospital. They put him on an operating table, cut a jagged mortal wound in the left side of the center of his chest, reached into his chest cavity, and pulled out his still beating heart. The aorta and other arteries were severed by scalpel, and his heart was removed. Simeon lay dead, his body covered with warm blood that splashed out of his heart and chest. Simeon Toko came to on the operating table. To their horror and bewilderment, his heartless corpse was moving on its own volition. He opened his eyes, sat up, and looked at them, the chest wound by which they had casually murdered him gaping open. "Why are you persecuting me this way?" he said to them. "Give me
Let's stop right there. That's deep. That's crazy.
What the deepest thing out of everything that I have been hearing is the simple fact that the story that's in the Bible of the Jesus that's written about inside the Bible. Um, as they say, Jesus allegedly has been crucified, and things of that nature. But then you hear the stories about, Black Jesus and how he like pretty, you know what I'm saying? Like he's stopping it from the rent. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's so deep because it's so many attempts on his life, and he's communicating with these people right in between it, and letting them know like, you can't destroy me. I'm really sent here. I don't know. I don't even know how to word it. It's just
Right?
it's crazy.
Crazy. Crazy.
I can assist you in that. Let's just look at the factors
Okay.
of the comparison. See, he wouldn't be compared to Jesus if he wasn't doing the works of Jesus. And that's what we have to, when men do the works of Jesus, like Jesus was only recognized and identified because he was doing the work of those before him. See, that's why he said, I didn't come to change the law of Moses. I came to fulfill it. Fulfill in that context meant I came to enforce it, to remind you that you have went astray. You are no longer yourself. You're living other than yourself. And anyone that's living other than themselves is what we call a savage, because that's one who has lost the knowledge of himself and is living a beastful way of life. So it's easy for us to just open up a Bible, go to the book of Psalms, look at chapter 82, and look at verse 6 and 7. See? And we could just change it all once we do that. Because I taught my son that verse since he was a little boy, like 3-4 years old. You're all God's children of the Most High God. That means you got a responsibility, my son. Yeah, that's bigger than me. I also taught my son the only law that's above his father is God. The only law that's next to his father is his mother. The only law he has to obey is that which he's responsible for, which is obedience. So once we start believing that, we start enacting that, we start creating the gods or the best version of ourselves that we can create. And that's how we can change our realities, because he isn't the only one. The purpose is for us to follow the example to become who we are ourselves, like the book of Clarence.
Yeah, that's deep. So let's hear the rest of this.
my heart back." Simeon Toko showing
Y'all see the picture right there? Picture show it right there. Him, his heart. That's crazy.
That's real crazy, and that make it crazier than a lot of things that we heard, because we can really witness this. We seeing live pictures of this brother. We seeing, you know what I mean, for him to even been in the 19th century, it's close proof of these things. You know what I'm talking about? It ain't like something that we can
It's
just read.
crazy.
We can see it with our own eyes.
Yeah, it's crazy. Just sit there and man, let's keep going.
the big scar where he was operated on by his killers, who took out his heart. He woke up without a heart, stood up, and asked for his heart back. During the night of December 31st to January 1st, 1984, when the media announced the death of Simeon Toko, thunderclaps of virtually seismic force and torrential rain burst the skies of Luanda. It had not rained in this area for several years. Meteorologists were mystified. For 3 days the rain fell continuously. The occurrence of this event was attributed to all the rumors surrounding the death of this great prophet.
So now I'm gonna play this, and then I'm gonna let us speak on this. So I want y'all to hear this right here. This is gonna blow y'all mind. So let's listen to this one guy explain the story.
Long Island, New York. Well, welcome to Coast. Say hi to David Wilcock.
Hey, Jimmy. Hey, Dave. How you guys doing?
Doing good, Chris.
Well, I have a question for David in terms of reading his new book, The Essential Mysteries, which I'm very enjoying very much. Thanks. And one of the chapters was Nikola Tesla, the Pete Peterson and Nikola Tesla Black Ops. Yep. There's one of them is about Black Jesus, where there's a ascended being appearing in Africa. Yep. And I just want to know if you know any more information you would share with us, because I thought that was very captivating to me, and I just wanted more information on it.
Yeah, the Black Jesus story. The Black Jesus story was probably one of the most shocking things I ever heard. It came from my insider Jacob, I call him that in the book, who actually was working for the Rothschild and still does. And
Can you stop that right there?
Also is a whistleblower who.
Yep.
Bro, what I just say.
Yep.
We have to study them because they study us, right? Now notice the verbiage. You have to always pay attention, especially in English language, to every word spoken. But in the English language is the only language that you have to pay attention to the context of the word that's spoken in, because each word has a variance. So it can mean a lot of things. But my man said his insider, a little hat. He said Jacob, right? And then he went straight. Then he went straight to who people be calling the Illuminati. But notice how they keep teaching themselves. They know it. Just think, our children, only way you know the history, well, I'm going to say I know. If you ever listen to the artist from Africa called Fela, Fela makes songs about Simon Toko. And it's pronounced properly. But that's our problem. We don't study, so we don't know. But there's an artist named Fela that makes songs about him, and that's the only reason I knew about him.
Right. All right, so let's keep going. Check this out.
Doesn't really do what they want, but continues to work for them because he feels like there's some very serious extraterrestrial threats to Earth, and that what they're doing is very necessary to protect us. So the story goes that in the 1960s, there was a black man in Africa who came in with abilities complementary to those of Jesus. And he was performing miracles. He was starting to get people to listen to what he had to say. And the cabal tried to kill him. And, you know, they could shoot him in the head and his skull would just regenerate and the flesh would grow back and he was fine. And, you know, so the crazy story that I heard, which, and remember, I was told at the time that if I disclosed this, that I would be killed. And I ended up putting it in the book anyway. The story was that this guy, you know, they finally said, okay, we're going to bring you to the United Nations and share your message with the world. Let's get you on this flight. They bring him on this flight. And instead of bringing him to the United Nations, they shot him repeatedly and then actually had some kind of meat grinder device and basically like a bandsaw, I guess, and sawed up his body into a whole bunch of pieces, put him in these very like radioactive shielded containers, and then had all these fighter jets dock with the plane and fly his body parts to all corners of the world, where then these containers turned them into ash. And they thought that maybe this would defeat him, like that his body somehow, the tissue was necessary. So if they destroyed all the tissue in all these places across the world, maybe they could defeat him. Well, he then regenerated in their offices and was fully fine, fully intact. But the sad part is that he said, you know, you guys so badly do not want me to be here that I am not going to be able to do any more. You're going to get what you want, but bear in mind that in the future, many others like me will be coming, and when they do, you will not be able to stop us.
let's start there. Let's start there. Yeah, let's start there, Hood.
What I told you.
That's crazy.
What I told you. They don't intend for us to be in awe of them. They intend for us to become them. Who is they? That's the gods. That's the gods that reign up under the supreme God.
Yep, and he told them when they come back, they're gonna be just like me. They're gonna look like me, be just like me, and you ain't gonna be able to stop them this time.
That's because they keep hearing the same rhetoric that they heard 6,000 years ago. See, when you go in the Bible, Joshua spoke of it, David spoke of it, Moses spoke of it, Ezekiel, Enoch, Jesus foretold of it. All of them foretold of it. And now you be hearing it in real life, real time. You got to remember, we live in the Bible ourselves. We're living a history that's being documented and recorded. So someone 2,000 years from now will be reading our lives, our documented history as scripture. That's why it's important for us to write our own damn history. Because as long as we chasing and following and living in another person's shadow of history, we won't know or give our own. Our children don't have nothing but what's presented to them, and they get everything off the internet. That's become their parents. That's their tradition. And they don't want to see nothing human. Just like these guys. They believe because they know it to be true. We don't believe. Yeah, we don't believe because we don't believe in ourselves. If somebody fights so bad to keep you oppressed in a certain situation, what is it about you that's so valuable for somebody to do that? Like, go through all of this stuff. They work day and night, 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 a year, bro. Every year of every decade of every century to every millennia now. Damn near millennia is half a millennia, 586 years. And we running around here not realizing that, these people working as hard as they could work, doing as much as they can do to keep us a certain way. What is it about us? And then we get examples that come before us. And that's why I told Hood, I love the fact that you feel that sensation, but just be in tune with it, because that's definitely incredible. It's what they would call superhuman. It's just what we call a black man.
Hood, you want to speak?
Man, I'm speechless. Especially after that closeout John just did. Yeah. But like I was saying earlier, that just shows you what I did have a question. So
go ahead.
Me, I'm an 80s baby, man. I was born in 87. But did you brothers ever hear anything about these attempts on his life, like across the news or something like that?
At that time, a lot of us didn't know. We were really during the 80s. We were really trying to be in tune with our culture, our black. We had the peace sign. We had the peace signs back in the days. The African. We used to wear the closet. It was a lot of stuff we used to do that we were trying. Like Jai used to always say, we never really had our own brand. We would take Vidal Sassoon. We would flip that. The females, the Aggies. That it was stuff
we
that
created. We created from what the market had for us, because at that time, especially in the 70s, we didn't produce our own fashions. So hip hop is important to us, especially people my age, because hip hop came out of the necessity for us to create a voice for ourselves in the community that was different from the status quo. Meaning that before hip hop came, the culture, not the music, the culture before, and because hip hop is two words in the English vernacular, hip and hop. Hip in that day comes from a language that we created. You call it Ebonics now, but in that day they called it jive. And in the language of jive, we said you hip, meaning you are conscious, you are aware. Some people use the moniker woke now, but that's a different story. But it meant you were aware, you were conscious. Person couldn't get it up over you because you were hip to it. So hop is just a forward advancement. You don't hop backwards, you hop forward. That's the only way you're getting somewhere. So it was a movement, a conscious movement. And it was important because at that time, we didn't have any rebellious culture. The only rebellious culture we had was a few musicians, like a Marvin Gaye, like a James Brown. See, you had certain musicians that were straight revolutionary, so it kept the spirit amongst the people. But everybody wasn't doing it because you were signed to these labels that wouldn't put that type of music out. Just like right now, you don't know the stories of Nat Turner. You don't know the true stories of John Brown because they don't want to repeat these ideas. They'll give you Harriet Tubman because they know you can't repeat Harriet Tubman. But if they gave you Nat Turner, you could repeat that. If they gave you John Brown, woe and behold, there would be some good white people that would repeat that. So they had to treat them in the worst way and then hide their language and hide their history in certain books and coded language. And that's what they're doing to everything else, especially our revolutionaries of this time. See, that they just think about this. And I challenge people to do this. Go look on YouTube and see if you could find Medgar Evers, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, any one of them, Kwame Nkrumah, any one of them talking nice about the oppressor, about our open enemy or historical enemy. And I'm not speaking on Caucasian people. I'm speaking on white people. It's a big difference. Just like it's a big difference between the African American and the black man. It's a big difference. So you can be Caucasian and be more black than some of these tar baby looking Negroes. See?
Right.
You can be as dark as night, but have a character, culture, demeanor, and behavior of one that's white, not Caucasian. So it's a big difference. And it's also a mindset. That's where them colors come in at, which is another story. However, we need to function on the level of cognitive function, have a cognitive function with what we do and how we do it, because we can reproduce the next Black Jesus, the next Simeon Toko. We can produce that just like we could produce anything else, bro. That's why the brother gave us some lessons how to give birth to a God. It's real. We just have to focus on being who we're supposed to be and stop being who we're trying to be, which is somebody other than ourselves.
No, that's real, man. And I appreciate you brothers coming on here. It was a great build. I wanted to do it before the end of it. I told y'all, I was like, man, I've been wanting to do it. I used to do this like last year. I used to do a bunch of stuff like this, but like I said, I've been so busy running around, man. But I wanted to be able to do this to bring light and again awareness, man, because it's just those topics need to be brought to the forefront. You know what I'm saying? So and again, that's up to anybody else's perception. You don't gotta believe me. Go and do the research. There's books out there about him, scholars that have read about this guy that they said that's where a lot of what they talk about. But to me
There's
personally, when they scream
a lot of songs too.
Well, when they scream out these unidentified or these aliens and they coming and all that, I think they talking about us. I think that's what they're afraid of, and they're using a different analogy of something else that maybe we just ain't tapped into, but it's something shifting. We all can tell. So
hey man,
again,
somebody been teaching about that for 93 years now in America.
Yeah.
A black man been teaching and telling, everybody. He ain't been just telling us. He been telling everybody details, but we just haven't been listening because those that benefit from it are deterred away from it, and those that it's to their detriment, they trying to deceive you away from it because they know it's to their downfall. Just imagine you find out that some of your uncles and cousins done created these machines that's superior to anything that society or civilization has ever known in our physical activity of practice. And just go look at the documents, though. They had battles over the city of Los Angeles in 1941, bro, of actual firefight to the point where the soldiers were shooting their guns from the ground up at the sky. So it's all documented. We just don't believe it because they have created fiction and made fiction greater than our reality. So when you start seeing the close encounters of the third kind and the first kind and the second kind, you start seeing space invaders, you start seeing alien, you start seeing all of these type of precepts that create a mindset.
You know what remind me too is Predator.
Just think about it. Who Predator looked like?
And who played the part? Who played the part of Predator?
Don't it look like the Ethiopian?
See, you gotta remember who played the Predator part was a black man.
That's why they call him the dreadlock. We call them locks. Those are the extension of the mane of a lion. But when they ran down on those Ethiopian warriors that had no fear, instilled dreadful behavior upon white people.
Bro, even to take it to the family movies, we can say Avatar.
Facts.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just blown away about the whole thing when I thought about Predator. And when you look at what he talked about, these big guys that came down there that was moving stuff. You see these movies, and like we say, they don't make these type of movies just to be making them. And then they call it the Predator.
You know a good one?
So crazy.
You know a real good one to watch that got a lot of science, our history in it? The series, the Riddick series with Vin Diesel.
Oh yeah.
Check that. Like, look at that science, but look at the back, the breakdown of it, the detail of it. You have a black man that was his whole people and planet was exterminated, and they thought they killed the last one, but he's unkillable. He's Mr. Immortal. You can't kill him. He's been trained by a genetic training that nobody else got. He got a sensory that nobody else functioned with. And what does he do? He comes from being the hunted to the hunter.
Yep.
It should be our destiny if we are conscious, if we're hip. However, we sleep, bro. You ain't never getting nothing. And we've been asleep for a long damn time. We so sleep we dead. We only believe in the dead.
Definitely fact.
So yeah, man. So we're gonna go ahead and get off here. Hood, I'm gonna let you wrap it up. Tell me what your whole breakdown of this whole thing was and what you took away, and then John let you do your thing, and then we get up out of here.
Definitely. First and foremost, Cross, thanks for having me on here. It's always an honor, man. Yeah, man. Salute the job. Much love and respect. It's an honor. It's an honor being able to, build, with you brothers, period, man, with the knowledge and everything. I really appreciate it. And every opportunity I get when I talk to y'all, I'm definitely, I listen before I speak because I know y'all got something great to offer. And thank you for being able to push this out on such a strong month, coming to the ending of this month.
Yeah.
With my 36 years of being on this earth, I never heard of this brother. And now I got a chance to even do more research and, dig deeper. So that's first and foremost. And secondly, man, salute to the chat. Much love and respect. Y'all know how we carry it, man. We all family. And, man, stay tuned, man. It's always an exclusive, man. So make sure that y'all hit those notification bells and all of that. And stay tuned, man. That's all I got to say. SB Twiz, man.
Already, man. What's up, John?
My brother, peace and blessings to the kings and queens of gods and earth, to the Plug Podcast and the universe. Definitely salute to my brother, the Hood Blogger, and everybody that's definitely in the chat, man. We love that energy. We love that feedback. We love that rebuttal because that's what keeps us flowing. That's what keeps the wisdom active in order to get an understanding understood. So I like to just tell our people that there's a Simeon Toko in all of us. All we have to do is manifest that in what we do and everything that we do. We don't have to perform miracles that satisfy others. We just have to perform the miracles that's behind the goals that we want to accomplish. So let's focus proper on life and let's achieve everything we can achieve in life. And perhaps we can produce a generation of Simeon Tokoks to change our future. We don't have to live to see it, but we got to begin it at some day in order to have it as a reality. Peace.
Man, appreciate that, man. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate y'all coming up here. Yeah, Jen came late. Check it out. It was a great one. Simeon Toko. They called him Black Jesus. Yeah, and get a chance to go deep into it. It was something I just wanted to bring a little bit of awareness to everybody. So again, I appreciate everybody tapping in with your boy. This has been another great one. The Plug Podcast. We done did it again, and we're gonna keep doing it, and we're gonna run this number up because I said so. On that note, peace, man.